The last twilight before the end of the age rested upon Lyravel, leaving in the air a glow that seemed to weigh more than the light itself. Among the crystalline trees, the elf Prince Arendor walked in silence, feeling time slip away like dust between his fingers. There was an omen that the elders feared to admit, an ancient rupture awakened by the forces that shaped destiny. In the heart of the forest, however, there was something even more unsettling: the presence of Lyrianne, guardian of the winds, and the only one capable of reading the invisible currents that crossed the centuries, bringing with her the certainty that nothing would remain untouched. On the edge of the clearing, the air trembled around her as if the stars breathed right there. Lyrianne watched Arendor with a gaze that mixed tenderness and apprehension, for she knew that her path did not belong only to the present. A kiss between them could seal not a romance, but the very spiral of time. She felt the force pulsing in the earth, haunted by the possibility that the love they shared was the key that would unlock what many had tried to keep buried. And before Arendor could pronounce his name, the entire forest seemed to murmur that something terrible was about to awaken. The hall of the elders shone with blades of light suspended in the air, forming runes that told forbidden stories. There, Arendor heard revelations that would change his destiny. The end of the age was not a natural event, but rather a rupture caused by an ancient love, destroyed by hands that feared the union between different forces. He discovered that the lineage of the winds, the same as Lyrianne's, carried the key to rebalancing, but also the risk of unleashing the total collapse of the elven world. The more the elders spoke, the more Arendor understood that his heart was walking against everything the council considered safe. Meanwhile, Lyrianne remained outside, feeling the energy of the hall vibrate like contained thunder. She knew part of the story, but she had never known that her name was written among the echoes of destiny. The winds whispered that Arendor was being pushed toward decisions that would hurt them both, and she needed to find the truth for herself. With light steps, she approached the golden door, ignoring the ancient prohibition that prevented any guardian from crossing sacred boundaries. There, she heard enough to realize that her own existence was seen as a threat. When Lyrianne confronted Arendor, the ground beneath her feet responded before he could. The earth trembled gently, as if the world were breathing irregularly. It was the beginning of the rift, the first sign that time had been touched by emotions too strong to be contained. Arendor tried to assure her that he would protect her, but Lyrianne knew that his protection could be precisely the ruin of what remained. The air began to bend, creating small waves that distorted the space between them, as if it were dangerous for them to remain so close. Still, Arendor took a step forward, risking everything. His desire to touch her hand seemed to defy the very nature of the rift, which reacted like a cornered beast. But Lyrianne pulled away, fearing that her touch would be the trigger for something irrevocable. For the first time, Arendor saw true fear in her eyes, not fear of the world's destruction, but fear of what their love could do to the universe. The stars appeared prematurely in the sky, marking the beginning of the rupture that no one could contain. To stop the rift's advance, Arendor and Lyrianne needed to reach the buried city of Elindar, where time had remained untouched since the First Age. The path was tortuous, covered in living roots and shadows that moved like ancient creatures. Neither dared speak aloud, for every strong emotion seemed to echo in the earth, accelerating the instability. Even so, there was something silent in their gazes, an unspoken promise as strong as fear. Upon reaching the ruins, they discovered inscriptions that revealed the true purpose of the buried city. It not only protected time, it imprisoned the heart of a goddess who had loved a mortal. History repeated itself, and now Arendor and Lyrianne walked upon the same pattern that nearly destroyed the world centuries ago. With each step, the air seemed denser, as if the goddess herself sensed their presence and slowly awakened. When Arendor touched the central stone of the sanctuary, an explosion of light engulfed the chamber. The goddess Ilarith, still trapped between ages, appeared as a fragmented reflection, half light, half shadow. Her voice swept through the space like broken wind. She did not want to be freed, for she knew that her rebirth would mean total destruction. But there was something deeper. She recognized in Arendor Gyzes the same despair she had once witnessed in the mortal she loved. It was this love that threatened to restart the catastrophe. Lyrianne felt the connection immediately, realizing that the goddess was trying to warn her. Her feelings for Arendor were so intense that they could fuel the rupture between ages. But retreating was impossible. The love already existed, solidified in the fibers of destiny. Ilarith asked only one thing: that they find the last fragment of the Seal of Time before the kiss between them triggered the ultimate end. The Seal of Time was divided into 3 fragments, scattered by the very consequence of the ancient disasters. The first one lay before them, pulsing like a restless heart. Arendor longed to touch it, but Lyrianne stopped him. His lineage reacted to time unpredictably. So he took the risk and held the incandescent fragment, feeling memories that didn't belong to him pierce his spirit. Each vision brought him closer to the truth. Their love was not a choice, but an ancestral echo. Seeing his suffering, Lyrianne realized that the fate she feared had already begun. The rift advanced like cracks in fragile glass, connecting the present to the shattered past. The fragment Arendor held trembled, demanding union with the other 2, and this would force them to traverse realms where time followed its own rules. To reach the second fragment, they crossed the immobile veil, a realm where each step created frozen echoes. Arendor saw past versions of himself emerging on the translucent walls, while Lyrianne multiplied in reflections that revealed possible futures. Among these images, a version of them appeared united, sharing a kiss that illuminated the void, but soon the vision shattered, as if it were forbidden. Lyrianne realized that the kingdom wanted to manipulate them with possibilities to break their decisions. The second fragment was trapped inside an hourglass, suspended in the air, where the sand fell in the opposite direction. To reach it, they needed to join hands, something they both feared, but which time demanded. When their fingers touched, the kingdom trembled violently, revealing a future where their kiss caused the collapse of entire eras. Even so, the fragment fell into their hands. The third fragment was in the kingdom of never existed, where erased memories of ancient lovers lived on in distant echoes. There, Arendor witnessed scenes of elven loves lost to eternity, each story interrupted at the instant of a kiss. It was as if the universe were trying to prove that their union was doomed to fail. Lyrianne walked through the field of images, realizing that each echo was a warning, but also proof of how much the elves feared the power of true love. They found the last fragment in the spectral hands of an ancient elven warrior, who demanded a promise to renounce the kiss until the seal was restored. Arendor accepted, even feeling his heart tear. Lyrianne also accepted, but the sad glint in her eyes betrayed the weight of this renunciation. The warrior returned the fragment with an ancient murmur that seemed to carry all the pain of broken ages. With the 3 fragments united, the Seal of Time shone like a rebuilt sun. The rift, however, advanced faster than their hopes, and the elven world began to bend like heated metal. Arendor knew there was only one way to stabilize time: to offer his feelings to the seal as a sacrifice. But this would destroy the memory of his love for Lyrianne. She, however, refused to accept such a sacrifice, stating that the universe had no right to erase what had been born between them. The earth began to tremble violently, indicating that a decision needed to be made. Lyrianne approached Arendor, feeling that perhaps their destiny was not to avoid the kiss, but to accept it as an inevitable part of the end and rebirth. The winds around her howled, trying to prevent her choice, but she remained firm, seeing in his eyes the same desire they had tried to deny throughout the journey. The world opened in light as Lyrianne held Arendor's face. The seal trembled in their hands, about to shatter, but their love was stronger than any prophecy. When their lips touched, the universe froze. Time stopped, not in destruction, but in reverence. The rift shone like a crystal mending itself, reversing its course. Instead of collapsing, the world breathed a sigh of relief, as if that kiss, forbidden by the ancients, was exactly what the age needed to renew itself. When the light dissipated, Arendor and Lyrianne stood among reborn trees. The seal had vanished, replaced by a new temporal cycle that no longer followed the rules of the First Age. Their kiss did not bring an end, it brought a beginning that no elder dared to foresee. And as the wind danced around them, Lyrianne smiled, knowing that, in that instant, they had rewritten the destiny of the elves forever.